Peace, guys. Patrick, Conservative Rap. Thanks for taking a listen. And let's get right into it. You got a grand jury looking into Russia collusion. You got the FBI and the DOJ looking at 2020 elections. Adam Schiff is being called out as a traitor. And Trump is creating a task force so that the troops are ready to go at a moment's notice when, of course, the deep state that's about to be uncovered and not so deep is fully exposed, and they start to plan their riots with their squadrons in the cities. Let's start off on X, and we have Kobisi letter just on the financial front, which is obviously an important point to include. Breaking: NVIDIA and AMD have reportedly agreed to give the U.S. government 15% of their revenues from chip sales in China. What kind of amazing president do we have? What kind of business deal maker do we have in the great, beautiful White House making deals on behalf of America, on behalf of you and I and the people? This is being described as an unusual agreement with Trump in order to obtain export licenses for the chips. Kopisi letter replies, most people don't realize how massive of an announcement this truly is. This covers 15% of revenue from China, not profit, for both NVIDIA and AMD. It also means the Trump administration is now negotiating company by company trade deals. The trade war just entered an entirely new era. Well said by Kobisi letter, and let's just keep moving on. Yikes, this is from Stephen Chung. CNN continues to get absolutely destroyed in the ratings. The American people aren't interested in fake news. They haven't been for a long time, and unless these new age agencies start getting their act together, they're going to become extinct. And I think you and I both know, with the funding of who controls them and the people who controls them, the narratives that they push, they need to push, even as they become increasingly less relevant. So let's go ahead and repost this. Look at MSNBC. Total viewers live by 1,000. Wallace at 4. 1,000. At 5 p.m., Wallace, 1.034. Here we go. Hannity, 2,610 versus Psaki, less than half of that. And here we go, even into Gutfield versus O'Donnell. Look at CNN. This is amazing. I'm going to repost this. Oh, I already did. And yeah, guys, people are starting to wake up. If they're not getting their news here, where are they getting it from? From more socially monitored online journalists, the digital soldiers who are right-sizing the narrative. Moving on to the Gateway Pundit. And here's more regarding the media. CNN data analyst Harry Enton says Epstein's story has become a political nothing burger. For a few weeks now, Democrats have been obsessing on the Epstein story, a topic they had no interest in until the moment they thought it could be used as a political weapon against Donald J. Trump. The air is already leaking out on the issue, however. CNN data analyst Harry Enton noted today that the interest in the issue is way down. He even called it a political nothing burger. And shout out to Enton, especially for being on CNN. He has reportedly, remarkably rather, moderate and non-biased statistics on certain topics. All right, Epstein's story has become a nothing burger, data expert says. Weeks after being flabbergasted over the amount of interest the American public was showing in Jeffrey Epstein and the Trump administration, botched handling of the investigation into the deceased sex offender, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton now claims the issue is quickly becoming something of a nothing burger. Vice President J.D. Vance, holla, unwittingly sparked a new wave of calls to release the so-called Epstein files when he attempted to mock Democrats who are now all of a sudden so interested in the case of us during a Sunday interview with Fox News host Maria Bartiromo. I'd say this, from at least a political point of view, quickly turning into a dud of a story, Enton said on CNN News Central, causing anchor Kate Baldwin to remark how wild it was that interest had fallen off. Take a look here. Google searches for Epstein down 89% versus 3 weeks ago, falling through the floor, an animated Enton exclaimed. It's no longer the top term searched alongside Donald Trump's name. That's been trading off between tariffs and Vladimir Putin, with obviously the meeting coming up later this week. He added, but at this particular point, the American people's interest in this story, it's quickly becoming a nothing burger. Next, geopolitical front. Last refuge, ragtag bunch of conservative misfits. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, a true patriot who loves his country, tells EU leaders to sit down, let Trump do his damn thing. I think many of us really like Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. He's not generally a man who pretends things amid the EU coalition. Orbán says things clearly, just like Trump. Exactly. All right, so just 4 days ahead of the historic summit between President Trump and Putin in Alaska, the European Council sought to issue a statement in the name of all EU heads of state and government. Before the liberal mainstream chorus begins its newest rendition of their favorite Putin's puppet tune, I decided to share why I could not support the statement on behalf of Hungary. 1. The statement attempts to set conditions for a meeting to which leaders of the EU were not even involved. 2. The fact that EU was left on the sidelines is sad enough as it is, of course. The only thing that could make things worse is if we started providing instructions from the bench. The only sensible action for EU leaders, point 3, is to initiate an EU-Russia summit based on the example of the US-Russia meeting. Let's give peace a damn chance. And shout out to Viktor Orbán. He's exactly right. Returning back over to X, let's take a look at some more of happenings. And just more, I actually meant to share this earlier. Zero Hedge. Primetime commercial ratings for broadcast exports were down 23% year over year. Third quarter 25 to date through week ending July 27th. Primetime commercial ratings decreased 39% for broadcast, including sports, and declined 30% for cable. Third quarter 2025 to date through week ending July 27th. Next, more of the DEI nonsense. Look at this foolishness. The current chief of DC police, no wonder Trump is doing what he's doing with getting the National Guard and the Marines on standby. Pamela Smith is the former chief equity officer whose primary job was overseeing diversity programs. Why would you ever put this non-qualified pigeonhead in charge of a real police force? It's because you don't love the people and you're not there for the people. They're there for their masters and their deep state who really want criminals out on the street because that's their task force when they need chaos. Moving on again, Mark Hemingway, the Herminator. Here's a direct quote from the DC Police Union chairman. We completely agree with President that the crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it. But New York Times reporters think the problem is non-existent. Citing a non-existent crime, I'm not even going to read this. We know how these things operate and we know what time it is. I'm going to go right on to clandestine because I like how he puts this out. Hear me out. The Trump admin released a series of documents showing incontrovertible evidence that the Obama regime, the IC, the mainstream media, the DNC are still engaged in the coup to overthrow Trump. And now U.S. military is being deployed to D.C. and potentially other cities to quell crime and violence in these Democrat-run diabolical strongholds. Emphasis mine. All of this is happening while grand juries are being impaneled for the Russiagate conspiracy and while Trump and his admin have been warning us that accountability is coming for this treasonous plot. This sounds very similar to how Lincoln used the Insurrection Act in the Civil War to address the secession of the South, restoring federal order, quelling uprising, and the eventual suspension of habeas corpus and military arrests. Based on the documents shown by Tulsi and us witnessing the last 10 years of the Trump witch hunt, is it wrong to suggest that we're in a similar sort of quasi-cold civil war? Is it wrong to suggest that the Dems' coup against Trump meets the criteria of an actual insurrection? I say it does. I think there's much more going on than meets the eye. Trump is preparing for something very big. I think technically we are at war. Listen to this. Technically, we are at war with a domestic threat. We are at war with the enemy from within. And I'm going to quote clandestine, damn Skippy, and amen. Guys, this is it. This is the time. The deep state is fighting back with their last breath. Trump, the patriots, you and I, and everyone else waking up are back in control and taking America back from the real oppressors, the communists, the socialists, and the sadistic cabal of deep state criminal mafia enterprise running misfits that have had hold of our republic for way too long. What do you think? Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, and check me out at ConservativeRap.com for more analysis, more of a complete breakthrough, and some of the rhymes so we can get this further into popular culture as we take back the narrative. Thanks for listening, and take care.